Welcome to another episode of Left Off the Map. We're on the east coast of Tasmania. It's one of my favourite locations in Tasmania. The weather's always a little bit better and you've got this beautiful coastline everywhere you go and great seafood. Now we're coming into summer, it's a beautiful day here, it's nice and warm. So salads are one of those things that are going to be on lots of menus. I'm going to show you probably one of my top 3 salads, a Greek salad. So I've got a nice assortment of ingredients. Cucumber. Now there's 2 things you can do. Most cucumbers these days are nice and firm and the seeds aren't bitter. So you can pretty much use the whole cucumber. But if you have got a cucumber that's a bit soft, that means that there's a lot of moisture on this inside bit here. You can just cut it in half. And with a teaspoon, you can scrape out all of the seeds through the inside. A teaspoon's almost perfect for the size of the seeds in a cucumber. You get rid of all that watery seed. It's not going to be bitter. It's not going to water down your salad at all. So we can chop the rest of that up. Pop that in my bowl. Then I've got capsicum. Same thing. You're looking at bite-sized pieces for this salad. So, sort of that size cube is what you're after. You could, if you wanted to, you could roast your capsicum first. Capsicum is quite sweet and it intensifies that sweetness. You could, if you wanted, if you had a little campfire going, you could just wrap it in foil and throw it into the campfire and you get the same sort of effect. Red onion, then side on, just run your knife and try and get some really thin slices of that onion. Pop that in. So you can see you've got awesome colours already in there. It's like a really chunky pico de gallo. So nice chunky pieces, which is, like I said, that's what I like about the salad. It's got lots of texture and each of those big chunks have got lots of flavour. Then olives. You couldn't have a Greek salad without olives. If you've got little tiny olives, which you can get sort of small Kalamata olives. You want the ratio to be about the same for all these ingredients. So you've got an equal amount of red onion, olive, capsicum, and cucumber. Tomatoes, same thing. You want about an equal amount. These are a decent sized cherry tomato again, so I'm going to cut them in half. And then the final ingredient, which is one of those things that really does add to the dish, it almost creates part of the dressing, is the feta. You just want to crumble that. You want it almost as small pieces as you can possibly get, so it does become part of that dressing. You don't want big chunks of it, so you want to crumble it into the salad. Now we're going to put together our dressing. Very, very simple dressing. If you've got a jar, it makes emulsifying this dressing a whole lot easier. So some good quality olive oil. And a normal dressing is about 3 to 1, 3 parts oil to 1 part vinegar. I'm going to go about 2 to 1, so 2 parts oil to 1 part vinegar, just because I like my dressings with a little bit more acid. A little bit more. That's pretty close, I reckon. And then the final thing is a pinch of salt and some oregano, dried oregano. This is a really important component of the dressing. Otherwise, you're just left with basically a simple French dressing. About a teaspoon of dried oregano leaves. Give it a shake. So you can see how much easier that is to emulsify. It comes out nice and creamy. Now, it will separate out if it's left to sit for a long period of time because it has no emulsifier in it. So you haven't added Dijon mustard or honey or egg yolk. But if you're gonna eat the salad in the next half an hour, that dressing is gonna stay nice and creamy. We've got our balance of vinegar to oil perfect, so that can be dressed on top. And you want a decent amount because, again, it's a really chunky salad. You want those chunks that are in the salad to be able to soak up some of that dressing. We'll give that a stir. Everything gets really nicely coated. The last couple of things I've added to that was a little crack of pepper, some more of the dried oregano, and a sprinkle of salt. And we're ready to go. There won't be enough salt just in that dressing. There's probably not enough oregano just in that dressing to give you the flavour that you need. So extra pinch of salt. I know there's olives in there, but you're still going to need the salt because of the tomatoes and the cucumber in particular. Tomatoes probably mostly, they definitely will need a little bit of salt. And that feta is not quite salty enough to carry that. All right. Salad out onto a plate. Now, this is a great serving suggestion for a barbecue if you are having on the barbecue some lamb 4/4 chops or a lamb cutlet or something like that. If you're someone who prefers more of a leafy salad type thing, you could put some cos lettuce leaves in there if you wanted to. You could put some sprouts of some kind if you wanted to. It's completely up to you. But it's a really good base recipe. So now we're going to head off to my restaurant studio back in Devonport, about 2.5 hour drive from where we are now. I'm going to show you a very similar recipe to this, but I'm going to make it more of a whole meal by adding some pasta and a few other things. The simplicity of pasta, I think, is one of those things in Italy that happens all the time, but in Australia, we might take it for granted. The best pastas are normally the simplest ones, and the real emphasis in Italy is on the pasta itself. So it's about cooking the pasta well. From my trips to Italy, I've learned two things straight off the bat. Make sure you season the water and the importance of the pasta water when you're finished cooking the pasta because of its ability to thicken and bring sauces together. The reason why the water needs to be salty is because it's a dehydrated product. And as that dehydrated product takes on water, if it takes on salty, seasoned water, then the pasta itself is seasoned inside. And that way you can just eat the pasta as a meal. You can put some olive oil, garlic and chili through it, and it would be absolutely beautiful because the pasta is seasoned well. If it's nice and al dente, it's seasoned well, and you use a little bit of that starch from the pasta water, you can turn the simplest thing into a great meal. I'm only gently cooking 2 ingredients in this pasta, which is my garlic and 1 red chili. I'm gonna slice these thinly and saute them gently in a good amount of olive oil. So thinly sliced, same with my chili. The reason why I'm cooking them is because raw chili is sort of, the heat's there, but it's a different kind of heat than when it's cooked. It's a lot softer when it's cooked. And same with the garlic. Garlic can be quite astringent until you cook it and it almost softens it. So we're trying to soften both of these ingredients. Not just in texture, but also in the flavour. So chili and garlic in, a good amount of good olive oil. So probably 2 tablespoons of a good quality olive oil and a gentle heat. That's on the small burner, and that's all I need. Just want to toss my ingredients around in that oil and gently heat that up. Now, as I heat it, I'm going to be able to smell the chili, smell the garlic, and that's what I'm after. Once it becomes aromatic, once I can smell chili and garlic in the air, I can turn the heat off, and I'm making the rest of the dish in that warm oil. So I'm making sort of a warm pasta sauce, and it's a light, what they call a white pasta sauce. So in there we'll go capers, some Parmesan cheese, lemon juice, and then pasta with the pasta water. And that emulsification of the starch from the pasta water and the oil will bring the dish together. My pasta's almost cooked. This one is an 11-minute pasta, so we're probably We'll be 6-7 minutes into it, so not long to go with the pasta, so I can start preparing everything else for my warm sauce. So I've turned my oil off. I've got my oil and my garlic, which have softened. So I want a handful of capers. We want them to go in there while the oil's warm. That warmth will help release some of the flavour. It'll also help to collapse some of the capers so they become a little bit broken up for our sauce. Before I put my Parmesan cheese in though, some lemon juice. We'll go half a lemon first, and I'm gonna need some salt as well. So you can see in there that the lemon juice and the oil don't really want to mix. And that's why the pasta water is so important. The starch from the pasta water will help that. A bit of salt. So all I'm trying to do is create something that's going to cling to the pasta to give it a little bit of saltiness, some sour. Not really going to worry too much about sweet in this one, but those things that you're after in savoury dishes. So salt, savoury, sour, lemon juice, capers, chili, garlic are going to give us all those things, and they'll cling to the pasta. Remember, the pasta is the hero of this dish. I'll go the other half of the lemon. So that's probably a minute away now, not far at all. As soon as this is done, I'm going to turn the heat off. I'm going to take my pasta straight from this pot into this pan and start mixing it. That starch water that comes over, mixed with the olive oil and all the flavours that are in there, will start to bring the sauce together. Once I'm happy with that, I'll add my cheese. And I've got some fresh rocket as well, which I'll stir through. And again, the little bit of heat that's left in that pasta will soften my rocket, and that'll be my dish. So I've added everything to that while it was nice and warm. Add a little bit of rocket. I'll leave half that rocket so that it can go on fresh. Just want to let the heat wilt this rocket down a little bit. And then you've got a very Italian pasta. So this at lunchtime with a glass of white wine would be something that you would see happen in Italy in summertime, this sort of dish. And it's a very Mediterranean, Italian way of eating, and I think for Australians, we think that a pasta has to have lots of sauce to be good, and it's the sauce that we're after. But when you cook a pasta well, it's cooked al dente, the water was seasoned, and you've got a good quality pasta, then you can get away with having something as simple as this with a good glass of wine. That is as good as any pasta you're going to find that's got lots of sauce on it. White sauces, red sauces, this sort of sauce, which just the simple things in life are often the best. Well, that's a real simple but yummy pasta, and we're going to stay on that whole concept of today's episode where it's going to be simple, fresh and tasty. So I'm going to show you a fantastic little dish that you probably would never have thought of putting a dish together in this way, but you'll find it's got heaps of flavour, comes together quickly, and there's only 4 ingredients in it. Grapes, crimson grapes, are really, really nice when they're roasted. A lot of people don't think of roasting grapes, but if you think of currants or sultanas, they're just dehydrated grapes. So when you roast them, you're basically speeding that process up a little bit, but you're also caramelizing some of the sugars that are in the grapes. So I'm gonna roast these grapes. I've got some halloumi. We had feta before. Now we're going with halloumi, which I'm gonna grill. I'm gonna just pan fry. I'm gonna pick all of these grapes and pop them into a little roasting tray with some honey and some sherry vinegar. So some honey, just a little drizzle. I've got some sherry vinegar or some red wine vinegar. I like sherry just because of that sort of similar flavour in sherry that you get from roasted grapes. Mix that around, some olive oil, a nice pinch of salt, a Sticking with the same sort of Mediterranean style of dishes that we've been doing, you could add a little pinch of dried oregano to that if you wanted to, like we did before. You want these to be sort of savoury, sweet, moorish. So that's got a nice little sort of mix of everything's nice and coated. We've got a nice amount of liquid there so they can roast away in that liquid, dehydrate and intensify in flavour. So I'm going to pop that in the oven inside. It'll take about 25 minutes to 35 minutes, about 160 degrees. So I'll take those inside, pop them in the oven, and then we'll come back. We might just have a cup of tea, have a look at the view, about 15 minutes, and then I'll start cooking my halloumi. My grapes have got about 5 minutes to go, so I can start cooking off my halloumi. Now, halloumi, some people call it squeaky cheese. It's a cheese that will hold together when you cook it. It won't melt like normal cheese does, but it caramelizes up beautifully and kind of gets a crunchy texture on the outside, and it's soft and squeaky on the inside. So just want to cut it into almost sort of centimetre thickness, little slabs like that. And then I want little soldiers, so about that size. I'll end up with about 8 soldiers. Get my pan on. A little bit of oil. Then you just want to gently, you don't want this to be blasting hot, so I've got it on a medium heat. I'm just going to gently cook it through, probably 4 to 5 minutes each side on a medium heat, till I get that nice crust and that beautiful golden brown colour on each side, and then they can come out. Once they come out, I'll get my grapes out of the oven and I'll be able to put the dish together. Taking my grapes out, and you can see they've reduced by probably 1/3 in size, and we've got this beautiful dressing that we can finish off with. I just want to try it and see if it's got the acidity that I need to balance out all that sweetness. It doesn't. I didn't think it would. So I'm going to need a little bit of lemon juice. At the moment, it's like a dessert. You could have that with some ice cream or mascarpone, and it'd be wonderful. But I want it to be a little bit more savoury to have with this cheese. All right. Grab my pieces of halloumi. They're nice and crunchy. Got a really good colour. Still, you can feel they're still soft in the middle. Now I'll dress it with my grapes. Really good cheese platters. You've got cheese and grapes on there. When you have a really good quality cheese plate, you'll have the cheese, grapes, things like that, but you'll also have a nice little quince paste or something like that, which is sweet, it's intense in flavour, and it balances out the savouriness, the freshness of the grapes, the savouriness of the cheese. A little bit of dressing on top. I'll just try one of these grapes. It's the same flavour, but it's just deeper. So you get that sultanery flavour, but it's still nice and plump. It's really intense. It's been roasted in those juices, so it's taken on that flavour. It's dropped some of its own juice to help with that dressing. It's a beautiful, that on its own is a great little addition to lots of different dishes. And as I said, it can go with sweet or savoury. You just have it with some cheese, a great sharp cheddar if you wanted to, or some blue cheese as part of a cheese plate. You could have a little bowl of these grapes there. So give this a go as it is, but then think about how else you can use that grape recipe to intensify both sweet and savoury dishes. That's it for our first day here on the east coast of Tasmania at beautiful Swansea, staying at Avalon Coastal Retreat. We'll get to see more of it tomorrow. Everywhere you look around here, you've got a stunning view. So we'll check out some more of the views tomorrow, and we'll see you then.